Hello, good day to everyone. Today we are going to talk about the state and its elements. So, according to Aristotle, the state is the unification of family, village, having a self-sufficing, happy, and honorable life. So, for Aristotle, when we talk about state, the state is composed of family and the village having a self-sufficing life. When we talk about self-sufficing life, this word refers to the ability to allocate and to rotate the needs, the basic needs and wants of each family in the village, which means that the allocation is enough for the family and for the people in that particular state. For James W. Garner, it is a community of people having or less permanently occupants of a definite portion of a territory. For James Garner, state has composed of different family or people in the permanent territorial mark, or they are living or residing in one particular territory. So having a law governing body and having a habitual obedience, maintaining happiness without having external control. So aside from that, aside from the people living in one portion or one territory, W. Garner also defines state as having a law governing body, which means that there is a government, habitual obedience, which means that they are away from any crimes or any particular bad doings that and observe a particular acceptable behavior, and having a free external control, meaning that they are not controlled by anyone from different country or different land. So we define state. But let's define their elements. So what compose of a state and what are the components to say that the person or the territory rather is a state and the person is belong to state. Okay. So first in the elements, no, enabled for us to say that we are in the state is comprised of people. So the people are refers to the entirety of the population living in a state. So people or a population are those people who are living in a territorial domain. So these are the body that the government is governing. So aside from that, we also define people as who governs who. Ibig sabihin that who are those people in the jurisdiction of the government? Who are those who are experiencing the treatment from the particular governing body? Who are the um stakeholder in the state? Who are the people who will allocate the resources? Who are those people um that will be allocated by the resources? So these are the population. So to Plato, there is no specific amount of people in the state. So the state has no given standard when it talks about the people. It could be larger, it could be smaller, as long as there is a people residing in one particular state. It counts no matter how small or how big the people in the society. The state shall neither be too small or yet one has a great but has no unity. So for Plato, the state shall never be small or big. It doesn't need to be a big or to be large. It needs to have a unity. For Aristotle, the amount of people is neither large or small. This should be fair enough to be self-sufficing and well-governed. For Aristotle, who speaks about governing and sufficing, no, the state should have enough population for them to be self-sufficing and well-governed. So it means that the state should have an enough entity or quantity of people for it to become a self-sufficing or well-governed. It doesn't need to be large. It doesn't need to be too small. It needs to be a self-sufficing and well-governed. The next is territory. So the territory is demarcated area where people live. The surface of land, air, and water subjected to the jurisdiction of sovereign rights of the state. So when we talk about the territory, this is the land or the area that a one particular state is having a jurisdiction upon, right? So this includes the fluvial. The fluvial is the water, the aerial, which is the air, and the terrestrial, which is the land. So in a archipelagic state, just like the Philippines, now we have our own several jurisdiction. So the in Pluvia, the 12 miles or 19 kilometers from the coastline is our territorial or the territory. So which means that in this particular point, no, any fishes, any corals, anything that we could find under the sea is ours, is in the Philippines and our protected area. In the territory, you can put this um by having a definite meter of our land-based territory. While in water, in air rather, it is the um air space or air measurement, no, in for us to be considered as our territory. So territory answers the question where or where does the people live, right? For the government, it is the state law governing body, and the state cannot be formed without the government. Regardless of any structure, a state must have a set of people who will act as an enforcer. So, by definition, government is the law governing body system of one particular state. It could be any form, but the state cannot be organized without government. So the government will shall pass bills and sign law to be able to impose in the state. But an institution by which a society makes and carries the law necessary to be able to live in a state. This enforcement is brought by the people who have power and authority to them. So those people who will decide and carry the law are those people who have the authority and power given to them. So, in a democratic society, the people maintain democracy by voting for the people who will embody morality and love for the people. Again, the democracy is not vested to us, but we are maintaining it by electing people and giving people the chance and giving them the very best chance possible. So we have to think of the people who will or that will soon to be elected. So we have different types of government. We have socialism, monarchism, and presidential. So these are the common governmental body residing in a state. So just as in the Philippines, we have presidential and democratic government. And for the last, we have the sovereignty. The sovereignty is the power of the state to command and enforce their law. This is their ability to um, put the law in action and having a jurisdiction over a territory. When we talk about jurisdiction, this is the free will of the government to command, to impose law, and that is in the Filipino we have this nasasakulpan or this their constituent law. A freedom away from any external identity. So in a sovereign state, there has a two aspect. Number one, the internal sovereignty. This is the people outside the power over all citizen. This is their power to impose law to their citizen, to give an order to their citizen. While in an external sovereign, it is having an independence away from the outside control. So which means that we are not subjected to any colonization, to any protectorate um, under a protectorate land, or we are not under a particular government from the other country. So when we talk about state, it is independent form aside from having a supreme power to the people, we are also having an external and independence away from the people who wanted to control us. For the last part, we have to know what are the qualifying elements. So the qualifying elements means that how do we say that the state is a state, right? Number one, there is an international recognition. So this is the acknowledgement brought from the different sectors in the world, such as UN, ASEAN, or anything that can acknowledge a particular state as a state or independent state. Next, this is not somehow necessary, but we have to a level of civilization, a high formal organization. So we have different level of civilization and the organization residing into the state. So they are entrusted to create their formal organizations and their government on the particular state. Next, it has to be remain a de facto state. So when we talk about de facto, this is a state in fact, meaning that they are not yet state by the law, but they are state by the people, and these are not getting any recommendations yet from the other institutions. Next, it has to be a member of a family of nations that recognize each other. The number four sounds confusing, but we have to give a deep understanding that when we talk about family of the nations, let's say, for example, the EU, the European Union, so they are the nation that compose of different country or state, right? So a particular state should be recognized by any mm, nations, group of nations for them to be qualified as a state, or group of community nations for them to be considered as state. And lastly, they have to be considered or recognized by international law. So which means that they followed certain and they have to be declared by the international law or international union as state. So I hope you learned something from me. Thank you until the next discussion.